everyone. Welcome to Late Night Snack. I am Allison Kinnear with Voice of Her Own. Every Wednesday night, I do a little late night snack on Facebook Live where I talk about life and self-care, leadership and parenting, and just things in life. And tonight I was thinking about the back to school and that I did last week, and thinking about our children and parenting. And I wanted to tell you a story and kind of talk about name calling for tonight. And so what happened was, yesterday I was driving and my children were in the back, and we were in a parking lot, and this guy, like, we were about to cross where there was like an intersection. This guy came zooming in, like driving really fast for a parking lot, and the guy zipped over, and he saw me, he braked, I went, and I said something about, like, we're going to park over here so that we don't get hit by Mr. Speedy McSpeedy Pants. And my daughter said, "Mom, we don't call names. It's not okay for you to call him Mr. Speedy McSpeedy Pants." Now, there are a whole host of things that I could have called this person, but I landed on Speedy McSpeedy Pants. But she was right. She called me out and said, we don't call people names. And this is one of our number one rules in our family, that we don't call each other names, and we also don't call ourselves names. And I wanted to talk a little bit about why that is such an important rule and how it came about. So I was listening to Brene Brown did a, if those of you who don't know who Brene Brown is, just Google her, watch one of her TED Talks, you'll see what I'm talking about. She is a shame and vulnerability researcher, and she did I believe it was an audiobook on parenting, and I listened to it. And one of the studies, when she was looking at parenting and sibling relationships, one of the most powerful things that came out was how, first of all, how damaging sibling relationships can be, and how name calling fits in to how, like, something that can create a lot of shame for people, lifelong shame. So the sibling dynamic is one that we as parents have to pay really close attention to, because it can really have lifelong impacts, either for the better or for the worse. And one of the main things that came out of that was when children call each other names, the thing about siblings is they know which button to push. They know the name that is going to drop you to your knees, the name that's going to make you feel so small. And so one of the things that she recommended was no name calling. And that doesn't just apply for siblings between each other, but it also applies to anyone calling anyone a name, including yourself. And the reason why this is so important, it's interesting. I grew up with two sayings about name calling. One is, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me, or words will never hurt me. And that's true. Sticks and stones can cause a lot of pain and break your bones. But the fact of the matter is, our words are powerful, and our words can be transformative, also for the better or the worse. And when I think about all of the painful experiences I've had, they've often involved words, things that people have said to me. So our words are really powerful. And I think about the other one, I am rubber, you are glue, what bounces off me sticks to you. These are great little phrases to kind of brush things off. And I think it's important for us to all be making sure we're modeling what how to communicate with other people if we're upset, if we don't like what we're seeing, and to do so without calling names. And that also applies to us. So I used to be a really bad, I used to say lots of horrible things to myself and about myself. I would call myself stupid and, oh, you're so dumb. And, all of these things that, that ultimately, they're not harmless. They actually have really profound impacts when we talk to ourselves this way. We can get easily defeated. We can lose our confidence so quickly. It can impact us in a whole bunch of negative ways. And Brene Brown, part of her research shows that there's a big difference between saying, I am stupid, and I did something stupid. That might sound like not that big of a distinction. I am stupid versus I did something stupid, but it actually has profound impacts. So if your children are doing something that is not, not appropriate, that is wrong, it's important to use language that focuses on the behavior, not the person. And I talked about this in an earlier blog post, but I'll say it again. And if you listen to Brene Brown for any amount of time, she'll say it too. I am stupid is shame. That means it applies to me, and that is shame, right? And shame wants to put you into hiding. I did something stupid is guilt. And what's interesting about guilt is that both shame and guilt, they're both really uncomfortable places to be. But shame keeps us in hiding and keeps us wanting everything to kind of go away and be avoided. Guilt, on the other hand, propels us into action because we did something bad, so we try to fix it. So there's a higher correlation around addiction, alcoholism, abuse, all early teenage pregnancies or unwanted pregnancies associated with shame. And the inverse is associated with guilt. So they kind of go like this. So that's why it's really important that we are mindful of the words we're saying, not only to ourselves, but to the people around us, even to Mr. Speedy McSpeedy Pants. It was like I had to stop myself at that moment when my daughter called me out on that, and to say, you're right. I was upset that he's speeding in a place where there's a lot of people around, and he could hurt someone. So. But you're right, I shouldn't call him Mr. Speedy McSpeedy Pants. And one other thing one other reason why I wanted to talk about this is because my mother-in-law actually sent me an article about bullying and how, because, kids are going back to school and it's a concern for many parents around their child being bullied, or hopefully there's concern about your child being a bully. And, one of the things that the article said was that children as young as 8 years old can start bullying. And part of that bullying shows up as name calling. And most children either learn that name calling from us by us saying things like, calling somebody a jerk on the road or something else, an idiot, saying things to our kids like loser or whatever, moron. We might think it's playful, but what happens is that children start to identify with that, and whatever labels that we put on them, they don't know to distinguish that. They start, if we say things like, oh, you're such a moron, they will internalize that, and those will be the thoughts that they say to themselves as they get older. And the other thing too is that we have to put a stop to it when our kids are doing it to each other. So I know when my kids are calling each other names, because they do, I nip it right in the bud. It's a serious offense You can't call each other names. And I talk to them about why that's important. And I say, I'm not allowed to call myself a name. I'm not allowed to call you a name. You are not allowed to call each other names. And of course, by calling names, I just mean, you know, rude things or things that bring people down, because it's important to me that they don't internalize that shame, because when children do that, not only are they doing that negative self-talk, but you know, kids can start doing that to each other, and that can be a whole lot of pain, both in school, and that stuff carries on for the rest of our lives sometimes. So I wanted to talk to you about that because it just, the Speedy McSpeedy pants kind of showed up for me with that. And I thought with school showing coming and all those concerns, there are things that we can do to change that. And if you do have a habit of, you know, playfully saying names to each other, you might want to consider making a new rule and seeing how you have to articulate things in a different way. You have to relate to each other in different ways that don't always involve that name calling. So I leave you with that for tonight. And I see there's a few people watching. Hi, Jen. So good to see you. Jen McFarland, the amazing Jen McFarland. And I don't know who else. There's somebody else, but this is one of those things, like if there's no comments, then I can't tell, but I'm so glad you're here. I'm trying to think if there's any new events happening. Oh, Abby! Oh my gosh, are you watching from Europe? Holy cow. So good to see you. I'm trying to think. I don't have any new events happening right now. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm working with a lot of clients. Oh my goodness, so many clients. And I'm so delighted doing that work. I'm really close to having a wait list. It's kind of crazy. And I'm so honored to be a part of everyone's journey. So I'm feeling grateful. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful night of uninterrupted sleep tonight and always, and I will see you next week for Late Night Snack. See you then. Take care. Bye.